Hi there, and welcome to the second episode of CryptoTime. My name's Antonio Shillingford. I'm one of the portfolio managers here at Bitstocks, and I'm here with
Stephen Ierotheou.
And if you wouldn't mind, what is it you do at Bitstocks?
So I'm an investment associate here at Bitstocks. I deal with the investments and pretty much heading up the investment desk here.
And you do work quite a lot on corporate structure as well, don't you?
Yeah, so as we transition into building our sort of company on a wider platform, the whole thing interlinking with Gravity, I'm liaising quite closely with lawyers and trying to get jurisdictional stuff done as well as reg.
So that's why you look like you need a bit of a nap sometimes then.
Yeah, that's why I've got the suitcases.
Right, so the topic we're going to be talking through today, again, we'll just do it in a very vanilla way. Quick responses, quick answers. And the topic that we're talking into today is, first of all, the different types of wallets that are currently available. And second, the storage options that are available. So the first question being, what are the different types of wallets that we have available today?
Okay, sure. So with wallets, there's normally a compromise. Security for ease of use. The more secure sort of wallets, it's more sort of timely to make transactions and use them. So starting off at the top, we have the most easy to use are the web wallets and your mobile sort of wallets. Now, these are wallets that are connected to the internet at all points of time, making it very easy and seamless to do transactions, almost like an Apple Pay sort of fashion. The downside of this is, if you can just imagine having a wallet on your phone, the phone can get broken, it can get lost, it can get stolen. Your money is on this mobile wallet, and therefore is susceptible to being taken away from you.
It's not like logging onto your bank account. You know that the money is actually on that device. So, of course, that echoes through to even desktop wallets as well. So, of course, that was all the stories that we heard. People buying Bitcoin in the early days and they're holding it on that hard drive and they're throwing away that computer. From people going through landfill sites to actually just find their hard drive. That's one type of wallet, of course, being the online types of wallet. What's the second?
So the second type is, like you said, the desktop wallet. A desktop wallet is self-explanatory. You have your wallet on the desktop. Now, the desktop is actually connected to the internet, which makes it a hot wallet. Because it's connected to an internet, it can be easily hackable. And you really are relying on a third party to actually store your private keys and confidential information.
Yeah. And just to tuck into that, of course, a hot wallet is quite typically a wallet that is just online, easily to move about. Then, of course, the other variation of that is a cold wallet. A cold wallet is more or less a wallet that is held in deep cold storage or completely isolated offline. And then that leads on to, of course, hardware wallets.
Yeah, so a cold wallet, like you mentioned, typical example, you have your Trezor. I think that's the most popular one. What that basically means is that you're storing your assets, your cryptos, in a wallet that isn't connected to the internet. Now, with that, you're not relying on a third party to actually store your stuff, like your private key, which is then accessible to by others. Even though there are security advantages, the ease of use really is down here. If I want to make a transaction, I would have to get my Trezor, plug it into the computer, type my PIN, then make a transaction, etc. Whereas desktop wallets and mobile wallets, the ease of use is a lot simpler.
Of course, when you are dealing with any hardware wallets or online wallets in general, you want to make sure that it's always fully updated to the latest version possible. Now, the second question is storage around cryptocurrency. What are the security levels needed for example, an individual compared to the security levels needed for a corporation within this space? Because there have been a few scenarios that have broke out recently where companies their practices haven't been proper.
Yeah, totally agree. So what you'll find is that corporations, because 9 times out of 10 in the crypto sector, they're actually managing the funds of others, tend to be a little bit more cautious. And so we see those sort of organizations creating their own storage devices. The majority actually use hardware wallets. People like you and I, general people in the sector, consumers and personal investors tend to use mobile wallets simply because it's, more cost effective for them. And, they're really not too techy. They just want to buy the asset and know they sort of have it. Now, when you talk about exchanges, they also serve as a storage mechanism. Someone can buy coins on exchange and just simply let them sit there, and they think that's safe. And that interlinks with an issue we have in the space where people critique Bitcoin saying, oh, it's not safe because you have coins that get locked up somewhere, like the Quadriga CX incident, Bitcoin actually is very, very secure. You just need to be educated and know how to actually store your assets. If you store it on exchange, then there is you're pretty much entrusting an exchange to hold custody of your funds. Most of them don't have insurance, they don't have custodian licenses, and they really aren't regulated to do so. They're not like prime brokers. So you're really running that risk. And that sort of affects most of the retail market, even though institutions do hold their coins on exchange. And with the Quadriga CX incident, as we'll find out, that is a problem they've actually been suffering with.
Yeah. The guy that, of course, was the CEO of the company wound up dying in India. Of course, that's when a particular death certificate came out. Now, the questions around it, we're not here to speculate. We'll take it at face value. Let's just hope that the truth is being told in that scenario.
Yeah.
But it is something that will be investigated because a lot of people have actually lost their funds off the back of it. Now, the reasons on why they lost their funds is because everything was centralized around that one individual. And they are the largest cryptocurrency exchange in Canada. So for everything to be centralized around one individual is ridiculous. And this is where people that are in charge of these companies should put in place the proper practices that they need. Now, off the top of my head, I believe he was using a laptop and USB stick, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, and there were a lot of questions that stemmed from a few weeks prior to how everything sort of manifested around that particular individual and company. A few weeks before, 9,000 Ethereum just went missing. We saw 5,000 of those Ethereum. The 5,000, I believe, went to Binance. 4,000 then moved into different exchanges between Poloniex, Bitfinex, and Kraken. So straight away, that stems a lot of questions. The fact that some money has been floating about, and we know that their company itself was in financial difficulties, which of course I know that you was looking into.
Yeah. So doing a deep dive into the exchange actually reveals a common problem in the space, that whether you're a consumer or you're an actual entity that takes custody of funds, people aren't really educated with security. This exchange was the biggest in Canada. It had 115,000 users, and doing a deep dive, they were actually in some financial difficulties. So from the 115,000 users, they owed a cash total of around 70 million and a further crypto liability of 150 million. That is a hell of a lot of money. And recent analytical reports from Ernst & Young, who were their auditors, actually reveal that in the wallets they have access to, they have less than $1 million worth of assets. So how do you pay for this deficit? In my opinion, I think security was a bit of a flaw. I know that they used, PCs and USBs, which have been reinforced in a security manner, but they should have taken it seriously. There's other precautions you can actually take, and we're going to come on to that.
100%. And the thing is, like we were saying just previously, a lot of these corporations and the CEOs behind these corporations, they really do need to start growing up and putting in place the proper security practices that with any time that you're managing or looking after anyone else's funds, whether you're an exchange, whether you're a hedge fund, whether you're a bank, the practices should be there. It should never, ever, ever be centralized around one particular individual. Of course, that leads us perfectly onto the third and final question, being what are the solutions for these issues? Everything is fragmented at the moment. The fact that we have online wallets and they are very easily movable, but they are security flaws. The fact that, of course, we have cold storage wallets, but then it's safe, but it's not very easy for a company to use it and actually, end of the day, do their day-to-day business. So really and truly, we need a combination of the two. So what are some of the solutions that are being worked on at the moment to make sure that ease of use is there as well as security?
Sure. So there's quite a few. Enchain, they are one of the leading development firms in the space, predominantly on the BSV sort of bandwagon, but they are inventing some really cool technology. So simple scenario, if I actually have a cryptocurrency wallet, I don't really want to give my private keys to anyone, but I want there to be a next of kin. So in the event of something bad happening to me, my coins be easily transferable, even with me not in the picture, to my next of kin, being my mum. It can actually happen. N-Chain are building a technology that allows beneficiaries. So it would automatically enable proof on the blockchain of me, passing, i.e. a death certificate, proof of my next of kin, which can also be on the blockchain. And those coins will inevitably be transacted to my mother's account. That is something that we need, because over time we're hearing of people, passing who have massive sums of assets. And really and truly, it's just reducing the total working supply, not the total supply because they'll always remain there, but the total working supply, because those cryptos are pretty much disabled. No one can have access to them. So that is a major flaw. And N-Chain are doing amazing tech advances to actually improve on that. The next thing is using multi-sig wallets. A multi-sig wallet means that numerous people can have access to the private keys of a wallet, enable to confirm and make approved transactions to actually go ahead. Now, there's something called a 2 of 3 alignment, and that means there's 3 people with the private keys. You only need 2 people to sign in order to make that transaction valid and go through. I know there was talks of that actually happening in this case. I'm not too sure whether it did happen, but that is another precaution companies can take, and companies need to take it more seriously.
The easiest way of explaining what a public key and a private key is your email address and password. So of course, for my public key, I would have no issue with actually giving it to you, because all you can effectively do with the public key is send me something. So if you have access to that, you can just use that to send, just like you would with an email address. The private key being your password, you're less likely to be giving that out to anyone, because then that gives you the ability to do actions, that gives you the ability to then send from that particular address. So with the multi-sig, it's pretty similar to what we used to see in old school films. You see with the nuclear codes, and they used to turn the keys at the exact same time. That's exactly what multi-sig pretty much is. But it's just done in a more geeky way and less cool way, to be honest. And if there's anything that you want to sort of touch on before we close up the show today.
Education is a massive, massive part, and that's what our channel's all about, educating people. I mean, there's not a lot of, if I went to my grandmother and said, can you, what are the different types of wallets for cryptos? She'd probably tell me a leather and a plastic one. She wouldn't really know what, that there are different types of wallets. So the more people we sort of inform of these stuff, the more they can actually take responsibility and manage their own funds in a safe manner.
As the technology advances and the space advances, the general population ain't really going to need to care what's happening on the back end. Once we get to the point where everything is safe and secure, and we can actually move funds freely at the same time as being safe and secure, working with a lot of these companies within the space, that's when people can have a bit more of a laid back approach. But we are in very early days, so everyone that is involved needs to properly understand what these technologies are if you are going to be using them. But we will take that opportunity to end the show. But of course, please do not take this as any form of financial advice. This is just the research that we've put in and the ideas of our own. If you agree, then perfect, give us a thumbs up. If you don't, then of course, fire through as many questions as you possibly like. We're always an open book, and we'll be more than happy to have the conversations and debates. Stephen?
Yeah, thanks for watching, guys. We are on a variety of different social media domains. Whether you're a fan of podcasts, you can catch us on iTunes, YouTube, if you actually want to see us in person talking and discussing. If it's of interest to you, turn the notifications on, hit the like button, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.